legend.
Good evening, everybody.
Detroiter.
The point is that good things are being said about Detroit and Michigan, and not just by Detroiters and people from Michigan.
Anchorman.
In America, money talks.
Opinionated.
I'm tired of talking to you.
Okay, fine. I'm tired of talking to you. See you later.
Controversial.
I don't scare you, and you damn sure don't scare me.
Icon.
There is nothing more exciting than a hard-working, big city news department.
Tonight, we pay tribute to the king of Detroit television, Bill Bonds. Good evening. Thanks for joining us as we remember a man who is truly one of a kind.
Detroit tuned in to see Bill Bonds for decades. And yes, sometimes he made news himself, but you could always count on Bill to say what many others were thinking.
Bill passed away from a heart attack last Saturday, and tonight, Jim Kirchner begins our tribute with the final farewell.
It's a good day to cry, isn't it? It's all right to cry. Let's cry. He was a good man. He's a great man. He's a pain in the ass, and he was wonderful to laugh with.
We all knew Bill Bonds one way or the other, on TV, on the town, through his reputation. Nobody knew him like his own blood relatives. He was the go-to guy for them, too.
And he was always there. He always knew the right thing to say. I didn't always want to hear it, but he always had the right thing to say.
His son told the service his favorite story about how his dad pulled him out of Catholic school on a ruse. To help his grandmother move? Not so much.
And we get to the car, and I said, Dad, I didn't know Grandma was moving today. He said, well, Johnny, it's actually opening day, and we're going to Tiger Stadium.
And the life lesson? A typical Bonds punchline.
Sometimes you've got to lie to the nuns.
Everybody wants to know, was he as tough as a dad as he was as a newsman?
He was a teddy bear, and he would do anything for my sister and I. We were like his princesses. He would do anything for me.
It's not just what he said, but also what he did for his kids.
His perseverance, tenacity, and commitment, he never gave up on anything in his life. And he always made his dreams come true, and I got that from him.
Another daughter, Christine, told her future husband, Bill Bonds, set the bar high.
You've got some pretty big shoes to fill. I said, can you give me an idea what I'm up against? She goes, every time I walk in the room, you need to light up, to give me no pushback, and always affirm everything I say, and you'll be just like my dad.
Bill signed off his broadcasts. Have a pleasant, peaceful evening. Good night. And to you, Bill, rest in peace.
And we all wish that for Bill. Thank you so much, Jim. Bill Bonds knew how to push people's buttons for sure. Love him or hate him, everyone tuned in to watch him.
He was a gifted storyteller, but perhaps one of the most fascinating stories, his own.
Our longtime friend and colleague, Eric Smith, has a look back at the life and legacy of Bill Bonds.
Good evening, everybody. Dangerous weather conditions exist right now, so keep an eye.
At times, he was almost larger than life, and at times, life proved to be much larger than he ever thought it could be. For some 30 years, he ruled the Detroit news scene with the God-given gifts of intellect, style, passion, and an unfettered ego. He was the king of Detroit TV, and he knew it.
Well, whatever you do, you little pilgrims, you don't tear down Billy's throne. That's the way it is around here at Channel 7.
Like so many who came before him, Bill cut his first news teeth in local radio. Then in the mid-1960s, he was summoned to his ordained destiny in television.
Dr. King's standpoint, wouldn't it be virtually impossible to economically boycott Alabama without the participation of the Teamster Union?
Then in 4 frightful days in July 1967, fate intervened. As buildings burned and gunshots rang out in the city streets, Bill Bonds became the voice of the nation's worst urban riot.
We said it couldn't happen here. Things were too good, but it did, and the nation was shocked.
He was the information lightning rod, sorting fact from rumor, truth from tragedy, life from death. They were called the days of madness for good reason, and they changed Bill Bonds and local news in Detroit forever. It was not long before Bill and the Channel 7 news team had become the city's #1 choice for news and information. Bill's reputation had begun to grow beyond Detroit, and it was not long before New York and Los Angeles were calling. He went for a while, but in the mid-1970s he was back where he belonged. The king came home, and his subjects paid homage once again, making him #1 for many years to come. The success came with a price tag, of course. Bill became the highest-paid local news anchorman in America. The paper said he made over $1 million a year, but the money and the fame came with other costs.
You do some damn stupid, destructive things when you're drinking.
I know it did not come as a great surprise to you that I am an alcoholic.
Alcohol became a best friend, and unfortunately traveled too often with him in the car. Ultimately, his friend in the bottle was able to do what no other media competitor could do. It dethroned the king. We had grieved with him when a drunk driver took the life of his daughter. We had laughed with him when he challenged Coleman Young to a fist fight. We had shared the jokes about his toupees. We had watched him trade barbs and hurl questions at the high and the mighty.
Look, I go through enough crap back here. I don't have to go through it with you.
Well,
and let me tell you something.
No, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
No, you tell yourself something. I'm tired of talking to you.
Okay, fine. I'm tired of talking to you.
And then one day, it was just suddenly all over. It would never be quite the same at 5, 6, or 11. Yes, the king fought back and came back, this time without his friend in the bottle. His commentaries, once the meat of the lion, seemed to have lost their punch on the MTV generation. Soon after, he reappeared as a paid spokesman for a local furniture store. The ads were empty reminders of another, better time in the king's reign, when the blue eyes and the staccato delivery heralded moments of importance in our city's history. It was often said, in good-natured jest, that Bill Bonds was a legend in his own mind. Today, as we mark his passing, it must be said that Bill truly is and was a legend in his own remarkable time. He was my friend. He was my teacher, and for a time, a mentor. I shall miss him. The king is dead. Long lived the king.
Wow. Wow, amazing.
Amen.
To look back, right? Eric Smith, of course, joins us now to share more of his memories. And I know, Eric, you often told me you started here at 19, and you said there he was your mentor and he was your teacher. He taught you the ropes, right?
He did. After I disagreed with his hiring, which was a great joke, which we laughed about many years, but I told the news director at the time, I said, you can't hire this man. He's got an ego build it bigger than Broadcast House. But I was obviously very wrong, but we had a lot of fun. Billy and I had just a wonderful relationship. Yeah, I'm thinking about it today. I actually never worked with Bill on the air, other than, you know, I was in the morning and he was at night, and we just didn't cross paths, except for a period of time when I was the weatherman, because our weatherman, Jim Smith, had had a heart attack, and I'm going way back now, back into the 60s, and I had to do the weather, and that was really the only time the two of us shared the anchor desk.
Eric, do you think he was so strong despite his weaknesses or because of his weaknesses?
Well, I don't think there were many weaknesses other than he loved his family, and we had a lot of milk and cookies together, okay? But it was a different time. I think, honestly, I think what made him strong was the love that he got from the people in the city of Detroit.
And everyone did love him.
Everybody. Well,
I mean, I know there were some people who said, no, I hate him, but everyone watched him.
Yeah, everybody would watch, and that was the important part. But when he was out on the street, I mean, the room would light up when he walked in. And it was just that charisma that very few of us carry around with us.
Yeah.
Eric was there on the stage with Bill on his last big public appearance, which was in June at the local Emmy Awards there.
Yes, indeed. Bill received the Governor's Award for his distinguished career in television. It would be his final bow, and he took a moment to reflect.
Life has been, how do I say this? Life has been incredibly good. for Billy Bonds and his friends.
The best there ever was, anchorman and Hall of Fame journalist Bill Bonds.
And in 2010, Bill took his rightful place in the Michigan Journalism Hall of Fame, proudly accepting, while he fought back tears with a few humble one-liners.
I earned it. Thank you very much, and good night, everybody. There is nothing more exciting than a hard-working, big city news department. You walk in, and people bowed down when I walked in. But then when you walk in, this is a great honor for me. We did it. I get the plaque. But from me, you get the love and respect and the thank yous that you deserve. I'm so proud to be here. This is maybe one of the great nights of my life, and it capped some wonderful, marvelous years for me and my family, for you. And I mean, we worked together. How many thousands of shows we did over 20 years? God almighty.
We spent most of our life together.
Yeah, we really did.
My husband's still jealous.
Oh, and there they are, all together. Bill will be the first to tell you he had the best co-anchors in the business. For sure he did, with Diana Lewis and Robbie Timmons, who join us tonight right here in our studio.
All right, so what did you guys think when you first sat down with him? Because as experienced as you guys both are, he was still a legend by the time you started with him.
First of all, we are the other women.
We are, exactly. We are the other wives.
That's what we are.
You know, think of the time we spent with him. We spent with him
as
much time with him as his wives did, possibly more.
Oh, amazing, and such an experience. I mean, every day, a challenge, but yet a lesson. Yeah. And that's why we didn't want to know what he was going to say, the commentaries or anything. We didn't want to know. I wanted to be as surprised and enriched as the people at home.
And he did that, didn't he? I mean, he kept everybody surprised. You never knew what he was going to say. You never kind of knew what was going on, but that was his attraction. That's what the viewers loved. They were saying that they never wanted to miss a newscast because they were afraid they were going to miss something.
Now, you both, of course, are legends in your own right and icons and beloved in this community, but, I mean, give us one thing about Bill that people don't know. I mean, a secret.
Oh, he has a wonderful heart. You know, it's not that it's all about me kind of a guy. Bill had the biggest heart in the world. I played Elf many Christmases. I filled out names and put $100 bills, $400 or $500 bills for people in the community. I paid heating bills for a couple of people who worked here. I was the secret person that Bill, damn it, put this on there, put that in there, and get it right, D. I mean, his heart was big. He helped everyone. Bill Bonds cared, and Bill Bonds loved the community and the underdog.
I think there was a lot, though, that wasn't secret. I think what you saw with Bill Bonds, was Bill Bonds. That's what you got. He had an ego. How many times would he say to most of us, "Do you love me as much as I love me?"
Diana, Robbie, thank you so much. They know all too well that Bill was famous and sometimes infamous for his commentaries.
Let's take a quick look at some clips from the Channel 7 archives. Check it out.
It's really the old American dilemma. Increase his taxes, but don't increase mine. Take his benefits away, but don't take mine away. You know, privacy is a right in this country that hundreds of thousands of men fought and got killed to protect.
The problem is the Jewish people and the Palestinians. They can't, won't, or will not, or all of the above, compromise.
The point is that good things are being said about Detroit and Michigan, and not just by Detroiters and people from Michigan, but by some very smart, sophisticated cookies around this country. Now, if we could just get those little filthy-mouthed boys and girls in the bleachers to shut up and somehow get Bill Bonds to stop editorializing all the time, everything would be perfect.
I don't scare you, and you damn sure don't scare me. Now, how about you and me sparring a couple of rounds?
Wow. All right, now that last clip, of course, is where he
That
challenged Mayor Coleman Young to a boxing match, Diana and Robbie.
I was going to walk around in the bathing suit at round 3.
But how much fun was that? I mean, they met later and just both of them laughed about the whole thing, you know, so they both made fun of it.
He did some outrageous things on the air.
Absolutely.
A little Coleman Young story.
Yes.
We started a segment called Up Front. Everyone was nervous to go on with Bill. It takes cameraman, good friend Nate Penn to tell the story. We had to calm people down. What is he going to say? What do you think he's going to
never knew what he was going to ask you.
So we had the mayor on. The mayor's expense account was released. We're going over the account. I'm wondering, what is Billy going to say? What am I going to say? So we get into the interview. Bill does Bill's thing. I ask my questions. Brilliant writer, Bill Becker, John Terry, Barry Cuff, you know, these people put together brilliant questions. Brilliant questions. So at the end of the interview, I did this. I went, damn it, Bill. I really wanted to ask him, what about the money for the cigarettes? You're telling us the city of Detroit is going broke, and we're spending all that money for your cigarettes. I said, but that was such a little question. He took his time, and he looked at me, and he said, that was the question you should have asked. That came from your gut, and that's where the people are. In your gut. That's the question you ask. All the other questions, those are cushions for me, he said. After I get out everything I want to get out, and if there's time, and most times there wasn't, then I'll go to these brilliant questions that the writers put there. But you go with your gut. That's where the people are.
And likely what people were thinking at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of my favorite upfronts is with the Girl Scout cookies, because he came out and he was saying, you know, we're not allowed to promote Girl Scout cookies. So he said, so I won't. And of course, the entire upfront was about Girl Scout cookies and all the flavors and where you could buy them. So,
well, he bought a lot of them.
Oh, yes, he did.
From Glenda,
exactly.
The only brown brownie
Right.
walking around. He said, I want to make her really important. He bought all the cookies, hundreds of dollars of cookies.
Right. You know, I heard a story, too, that he even paid. I know we got to go. Thank you. I mean, we could talk forever about it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for coming
Thank
here.
you. Yeah.
Bill had a quick wit and a sense of humor as big as his ego that he freely admitted to carrying around with himself.
Yes, indeed. He loved to laugh, and former sports director Don Shane had a great humor when he was on the set with Bill. Sometimes they fight a little bit when they were talking about sports, but Bill loved sports, and he loved Don Shane, too. Take a listen.
You ever thought about doing any sports anchoring at 11 or 5?
Listen, he's been carrying you ever since he came here.
Thank you.
I guess just about everybody has put the fork in the Tigers, saying they're done.
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. There's something going on in that team. I don't know what it is, but it'll come out. But anyway, the Super Bowl-bound Detroit Lions are at the top.
You're on their bandwagon, Billy?
Oh, absolutely.
He always says this time of year.
That's right, Robbie. I'm glad you said that. I'm here, Billy.
By God. Little small miracles never cease. You know, Don, you're paid. Here at last. Here's Donnie.
Oh, these are great, don't you think?
All right, Don, what do you think about that little stunt?
That's a Dare Don. That was a Dare Don.
That was a Dare Don, okay.
A viewer sent to me and said, be Billy. Act like Billy, get a wig, dress like Billy, go on the air and be Billy. Well, we had to get management's approval, of course. We had to get Karen's approval, of course.
Right.
Diana was in on it. Everybody was in on it except for Billy.
Oh!
He didn't like that, and out I came, and he responded the way he did. What you don't see on the clip that happened right after that is Billy going, you want to be me? Okay, you can be me. And he stood up, he threw the microphone down on the desk, and he stormed out of the studio. He didn't show up the next day, and everybody thought he was mad at me. He wasn't mad at me. He could take it as well as he could dish it out. He wasn't mad at me at all. He was just had a scheduled day off.
You all had such a great time on the set. I used to watch you. And sometimes people thought you all were actually fighting about the sports, but that was really just a team thing that you did between each other.
That was Billy being Billy and me being me, and our heads clashing a little bit.
So you did really clash?
Yeah, of course we did. But it was never mean-spirited. It was always kind of fun. I mean, look at the thing with Chuck Daly, right? He took the act out of the studio into the field, and he went and, you know, did his bit with Chuck Daly trying to get me. And Chuck stood up for me. That's perfect for Billy to be in that situation.
Well, I got to tell you, you're the greatest sports guy in this town that we've ever seen, and you and Billy together were just fabulous.
Oh, you're really nice. I have to tell one story. I've been given permission to tell one story.
All right.
Middle of the winter, station sends me and Billy down to Jacksonville to shoot a promo about our on-air relationship. We spend time and we do that. We get up at 6 in the morning each day, and at noon we're done because it's too hot to shoot, and Billy and I went and played golf every day. Come Sunday, it's time to go home. Billy's not going home. Billy says to me, you go home. I said, what do I tell him? He says, you tell him I missed the plane. You missed the plane? How did I make the plane to get out? You tell him I missed the plane. I said, okay. I come back home. Monday I walk into the station. Bob Rowe, the news director, calls me in and said, how'd it go with Billy? Went fine. Everything was perfect. You guys got along? Yeah, we had great. He says, okay, that's all I need to know. Well, Billy didn't show up Monday. And Billy didn't show up Tuesday.
Ooh.
And Billy didn't show up Wednesday. And Billy didn't show up Thursday. Billy showed up Friday. He walked into the room, to the newsroom, and he saw me and he said, hey, Donnie, come here. This is what he said to me. Did they ask about me? Did they ask about you?
After 5 days ago.
Of course.
Yeah.
What did you tell him? I said, I told him you missed the plane. He goes, attaboy.
All right.
Don, thank you so much. Hey, Bill had a starring role in some of the most talked about news promotions ever made.
Just one look, and you can see why all of them grab so much attention.
Well, you just saw it. Cecil smacked the big one, and then he crunched another one just for good measure. Good evening, everybody. Tiger first baseman Cecil Fielder, who played baseball in Japan last year, joins the elite members of America's pastime tonight. He hit his 50th and 51st home runs this year at Yankee Stadium in New York in the Tigers' final game of the season. Only one Tiger and 10 other players in baseball history have ever hit 50 or more in 1 year. And Channel 7's Don Shane, whose sports crew has been working busy all night, is with us now on this historic evening. And he's a nice kid, too.
He is a great kid. And if you notice, if you watched all his home runs all year, he rarely, if ever, smiled. Tonight, when he was coming around on 50, huge grin. This guy overcame tremendous media pressure, people who doubted he could do it.
Wow,
Hey,
look
Don,
at that baby face. Look
Look
at that baby face. So very many memories here at Channel 7.
I remember because I was a young reporter, I think in Wichita, Kansas, and I'd been in the business about 2 years. I remember seeing the first of these promos starring this guy, Bill Bonds, with his co-anchors, and it turned out to be all you guys. But I remember thinking back in those days, wow, someday I could be like that.
Well, it took us like 10 or 12 takes for each one of those promos, too, because, you know, we'd start cutting up, and then we'd start laughing, and Bill would start cracking jokes, and the producer would say, come on, settle down, we got to do this, we got to do this, and like an hour later, we're still trying to do it.
I think the best promo that I ever saw of Bill is the one when they were singing, don't mess with Bill. No, right?
Don't let him put the collar up. He loved that one. He loved that.
Yeah.
And all the Christmas promos, those were fun, too. Yeah.
I think the Christmas promos were the best. Remember the one when you all came down the elevator and all of you were waving to people? I think the thing that I remember most growing up and watching Channel 7 is everyone in our community knew each of you and the reporters by name. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
everybody.
very personal.
Don, I want to ask you, what promo could you possibly have had to go to Florida to shoot?
We shot the You're Out, You're Safe one where we disagreed on the play, and it was part of our disagreement, kind of like happy talk all the time.
And you couldn't do that over down the street at the...
No, they had to go to Florida.
We had no problems at that time taking long trips with really great promo stuff being shot. You know what? I'll never forget my very first night on the air here at Channel 7. I sat down on the set, and Diana's sitting there, and Billy's sitting there. And Billy and I got into a little, we differed. Let's put it that way.
You gently disagreed.
No, actually, you differed. We didn't differ. You differed.
And when we had finished talking, he turned to me and he said, nice working with you, Don.
You couldn't disagree with him very often, though, right?
No.
You couldn't, not on the set. That way you weren't going to question him.
Well, as you know, the only time that I had him speechless is we're on air, and he's joking with me and stuff like that. So I said, well, you know, Billy, you know I make more money than you do. And, of course, he went, he's $1 million, right? And I says, well, think about it. You know, for the entire newscast, how much do you talk? How much do I talk? My price per word is much higher than yours.
He probably wouldn't renegotiate.
No, and he thought about it and he went, yeah, you're probably right.
He was just so engaging.
Exactly.
I mean, open the lines of communications. You said that you would like to be that way. You are. You impressed me that way. The back channel, I mean, you embrace people, and that was Bill Bonds. He knew how to embrace you, make you feel comfortable, and just be innovative like you're doing and open the lines of communications. That's what it's all about.
And he always made you feel like you were in the studio with him, right? When he was talking to people behind the scenes, or he'd tell you to back up.
Well, and the viewers felt like he was in their living room talking to them.
Absolutely.
It's only fitting that Bill gets the last word tonight.
We want to leave you with one of his favorite stories from when he was a young reporter and tried to score an interview with the president.
And he shared that story with the crowd at his induction to the Michigan Journalism Hall of Fame.
And it is the kind of classic moment that will forever live in the hearts and memories of those who loved and admired Bill Bonds so much.
I was going to tell one little story about LBJ. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
Well, I've forgotten it. My memory's no good, but let me make it. Anyway, there was a tornado. LBJ comes into town, and this is just gut work, and this isn't genius. This is what, you know, if you're kind of a good reporter, you do it. And it pays off, you know, a hunch to this or that. And I did a lot of hunching. And LBJ's off the airport. I got my presidential, you know, credentials. His plane lands, comes down the gangplank. The fans are over here waving, hi, LBJ, hi, LBJ. The tornado hits. And I said to my cameraman, let's go out and see if we can't meet LBJ. I'll get a one-on-one with the most powerful man in the world. And Braddock says, you're nuts, Bill. They said, let's try. So we're going like this. Now, I'm 6'1". 185 pounds of blue twisted Irish steel, broad shoulders, narrow hips. Most of the time, a great head of hair. And I walk up to LBJ. His head's about this big. He's got earlobes that weigh 9 pounds apiece. I stick my microphone and I said, Mr. President, Bill Bonds, ABC News Detroit, there's been terrible, terrible damage and people hurt and killed. He says, boy, get that goddamn microphone out. Get that goddamn microphone out of this president's face. Walked over me. And all the fans says, way to go, Billy! So I did, and we had a great run, and I wish I was still doing it.
Good afternoon. As I begin, I wish to extend my heartfelt sympathies and prayers for healing to Bill's wife, Karen, to Bill's son, John, his daughters, Chrissy and Mary, and their spouses, to his brother, RJ, and to Skippy Bonds, the mother of his beautiful children. I know how much you all loved and cared for Bill throughout his life. I would like to thank Monsignor Zenz for celebrating Mass today, and for his thoughts and feelings so well expressed in that beautiful homily. Thank you, Monsignor. The family, I'm sure, is grateful for the wonderful turnout today for the celebration of the life of William D. Bonds. I'm sure that Bill would be thrilled. Most of you, I'm sure, have your own favorite movies. One of mine was a 1986 sleeper, often seen in reruns, called Stand By Me. Perhaps you have seen it. It's a story about the joys and the pains of boyhood friendship. 4 12-year-old boys are involved in an overnight hike through the backwoods near their Oregon small town to look for the body of a boy who has been missing for days. It's a wild adventure filled with all kinds of danger, but it's also a time for personal revelation, quiet interludes, and the raucous, profane, idealistic efforts of these boys through friendship to develop character and self-esteem. Many of us, I'm sure, can relate to their experience. The story is told as a flashback by one of the boys who grows up to be a novelist played by Richard Dreyfuss. The last line in the movie is taken from the book being written by Dreyfuss, where he states, "I have never had any friends later on like the ones I had when I was 12. Gosh, has anyone? Oh boy, 12 years old seems so long ago for most of us, doesn't it? But sometimes it seems like yesterday. I remember our 4th grade class at Blessed Sacrament Grade School on Belmont Avenue in Detroit was all sitting at attention and on our very best behavior. 3 rows of girls on the right, 3 rows of boys on the left side of the classroom. We were at attention because Sister Amard, our 4th grade nun, had just told us that a new boy would be coming to our class. His family had just moved into our parish from nearby visitation, and today would be his first day with us. The door opened and in he came. A rather smallish, blue-eyed, blonde boy named Billy, who would be assigned, unfortunately for me, I thought at the time, to the only empty seat right next to me at the back of the classroom. As he ambled down the aisle, his arms filled with books and school supplies, a foot flashed out, and down he went, face first. This was Ray Shalhoub's way of welcoming the new boy to Blessed Sacrament. Up bounced Bill, Anger flashing, supplies on the floor, fists cocked, ready for action. Fortunately, Sister Amard, armed with her trusty three-edged ruler, was able to quickly restore order. Everyone settled in. Lunchtime came, and since the new boy had failed to bring a lunch, and I lived just a block and a half away, we walked to my house and shared the usual peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which was then the staple of the 1940s kids' diet. And thus began a friendship which has endured here in Detroit for more than 70 years, in good times and in bad. Perhaps it's for that reason that I have been asked and so greatly honored to share some remarks with you today about my longtime pal, Bill Bonds. For those of you whom I have not met, I'm Gerald Dietz, a retired root canal specialist and a longtime observer of everything Bonds. So, what was Bill like growing up? He was sort of the original comeback kid. He put himself in a deep hole, and then cleverly, with guts and determination, he would dig himself out. Bill was very, very bright. His mom had been a school teacher, and his father, a very creative and gifted ad guy. He learned most of the basics around his home. For him, school was easy. In fact, since he was rarely challenged, he was easily distracted. He once told me, today they would have diagnosed me with attention deficit disorder. Bill could easily have gotten all A's with very little effort if he had wanted to. His deportment, however, was terrible. He loved to cut it up and perform for the class. Surprise, surprise. Everybody loved him. Well, maybe not some of the teachers. As a matter of fact, Bill spent quite a few school days sitting on the girls' side of the gender-divided classroom. This was thought to be a form of punishment back in the old days. Bill would confide in me later with a twinkle in his eye that although it bothered him some in the lower grades, he actually started to enjoy the punishment in the 7th and 8th grade when he and the girls got older. In high school, Bill became even less academically enthusiastic. He left his beloved Catholic Central. He bounced around in several other local high schools. He joined the military because the Korean War broke out. He got his GED there and returned 4 years later, eager to pick up on the formal education. He would thrive and excel at the University of Detroit under the GI Bill with the other Korean veterans, an education that served him well in the challenging television news industry that he would eventually enter. Bill always loved sports. Although not very large as a kid, his growth spurt came later. He made up for it with enthusiasm and determination. If our 8th grade Panther football team needed 2 yards on 4th down, or to get into the end zone, I would always give the ball to Billy. His love affair with sports would continue throughout his life. Bill, of course, knew many professional athletes personally, from his frequent visits in the quest for news, I presume, to the city's most popular watering holes, like the Lindell AC and the old Excalibur. Bill was well recognized at most sports events, overcoat worn as a cape, as he made his entrance just a little bit late and took his seat for Lions, Tigers, Pistons, and Red Wing games. He got to be a great student of those games. Sports trivia was his passion. And he learned to love golf as well, as he played in so many celebrity events. I know that all of you here today are well aware of the outstanding professional accomplishments of William D. Bonds. Bill, it seemed, had only one gear, and that gear was greatness. It touched everything he did and everyone he met, and it was spectacular. But in my closing remarks today, I would like to briefly reflect and recognize what in my mind was Bill's very special talent, being a good and loyal friend. Bill really liked everyday people. Although he was comfortable with people from every status in life, he had a special talent for relating to those that many of us might have taken for granted. Clerks, sports fans, vendors, waitstaff, wine sommeliers, taxi drivers, fishing guides, and the regulars at the local bars. Bill, in spite of his many talents and his oft-publicized ego, considered himself just everyday people. Perhaps it was his Midwest upbringing, his humble origins, his occasional failures, or the hard work and the dedication that it took for him to reach to the top of his profession. Although Bill and I were good friends for all those years, our friendship was not exclusive. Bill's enthusiasm, talent, charisma, good humor, and magnetism attracted many other friends who, one by one, would fall under his spell and remain his good and special buddies for life. Everywhere that Bill would go in the city, he would have friends, and others whom he hardly knew at all, who were convinced that they were his pals. Bill's magnetism was demonstrated wonderfully at Oakland Hills Country Club, where he became a member 35 years ago. When Bill would sit for lunch, guys would gather, old friends and new, to participate in the dialogue, the liberal-conservative debates, and the good humor which he generated. All were welcomed. The lunch table, which holds approximately 12 people at a time, was visited by probably 50 different guys on different days at different times as guys would come and go. That table is facetiously known as the smart table, or by some, the table of wisdom. Bill's absence going forward will leave an enormous void. In several recent and lengthy conversations with Bill, the subject of death and end-of-life issues came up, especially following the recent passing of Bill's brother Dick and his close pal Charlie Jones. Bill recognized that he was failing in health and expressed that although he was in no hurry to go, nevertheless, he felt that he was prepared to accept it. He felt that he had had a remarkable run in life and that his blessings had been many. More than he deserved, he told me. He loved knowing so many good people and having so many good friends. Bill did speak of some regrets, mostly relative to the complications that he had allowed into his life, but on balance and in contemplative retrospect, he took some justifiable pride in all that he had accomplished. Bill told me recently, would you imagine that the kid who started on his face in the 4th grade would grow up one day to experience what I have and to see so much of the world? What a life. I've been so lucky. I felt as though Bill was looking for some answers and for some positive validation, as we all must as we grow older and weaker. I told Bill that our conversation reminded me of the ending in the movie Saving Private Ryan, when the aged Private Ryan asked his wife if he was a good man and had he lived a good life. It's such a compelling question. It is truly the essence of our worth and value at the end of our days on this earth. There is no better or more meaningful metric that could be applied to a man's life. Bill, my friend, you were a good man, and you lived a good life, an extraordinary life, and I will miss you enormously. May God bless you with salvation and add your very special talents to the beauty of his heaven.